Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. Wassalatu wassalamu ala Rasulillahi wa ala alihi wa sahbihi ajma'in wa ba'd. So this is lesson number 18 from the Believer's Handbook for Qur'an Memorization. And inshallah, today we're on page 43. We're going to pick up where we left off. So in the last lesson, I finished after the ayat that I read, the first set of ayat from the Qur'an. So, and I said, all the faculties that Allah has given us, sight, hearing, and a heart to perceive and understand, and the heedless people never use these faculties in obedience to Allah. They either use them for the disobedience of Allah or to get the life of this world. Allah said in the Qur'an, Wallahu akhrajakum min butuni ummahatikum, la ta'lamuna shay'an wa ja'ala lakum as-sam'a wal absara wal af'idah, la'allakum tashkurun. So here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala akhrajakum, that He brought you out min butuni ummahatikum, from the stomachs of your mothers. And obviously this is from the arham, from the rahim, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought you out from the wombs of your mothers. La ta'lamuna shay'an, that you didn't know anything. When Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala brought you out, He wrote that you come, like you're going to have life and you're going to come out of the womb alive, and you have this life. You knew nothing. You knew nothing. You didn't know how to speak. You didn't know how to understand anything. You knew absolutely nothing. But here Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, وَجَعَلَ لَكُمُ السَّمْعَ وَالْأَبْصَارَ. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala gave you hearing, and He gave you vision. وَالْأَفْئِدَةِ. And obviously the fu'ad is the heart. So they translate it here as intellect, and it is because it's the understanding. Again, it's the heart that you understand with. So the af'idah obviously refers, like, it's the plural form of fu'ad, which is what? The heart. So He gave you these hearts. He gave you this intellect. He gave you this understanding that you can now start to understand, like, small sentences and small words, and then you can start to express when you're hungry, when you're thirsty, and then you learn. And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you all of these faculties for what? لَعَلَّكُمْ تَشْكُرُونَ. And obviously a shukr here is through using these faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you in His obedience, to get closer to Him. If you're using these faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, He's given you the ability to speak, but you use your ability to speak to tell lies, to manipulate people, to lead people astray, to exploit people with your tongue, then where is the shukr? Where is the gratitude that you're showing? And you're doing the exact opposite now. You're using a blessing that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you, and you're using it to disobey Him. So Allah musta'an. And then on top of that, He gives you hearing. So you have this hearing, which is a huge blessing that you can hear. Well, are you using the hearing to listen to the ulama, to listen to the Qur'an, to listen to a person teach hadith, or listening to a nasa'ih, like advice from the ulama? No, you're using your hearing for what? To listen to foolish speech, to listen to music, to listen to things that have no benefit. And again, where is the gratitude? And Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you a mind of understanding, but you use that intellect that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given you to do what? To cheat people, to dupe people, to make up lies, to exploit, manipulate, and do all these. Then what? Where is the gratitude? So the gratitude is shown by us taking these faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given us, and we use them in His obedience. Wallahu musta'an. So then I said, show gratitude to Allah by learning His deen and obeying Him with the knowledge that He has gifted you. The way you show your gratitude is through your obedience to Him. How can you be considered grateful to the one you openly disobey without any concern? Not being concerned with learning the Arabic language is turning away from the revelation. This is a form of turning your back on what Allah sent down. How can you live your life without being concerned that you do not understand the speech of Allah? This is a punishment in the dunya. Allah said in the Qur'an, سَأَصْرِفُ عَنْ آيَاتِيَ الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ وَيَرَوْا كُلَّ آيَاتٍ لَا يُؤْمِنُوا بِهَا وَيَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الرُّشْدِ لَا يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا وَيَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيِّ يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. So Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, سَأَصْرِفُ, that I'm going to turn away an ayati, I'm going to turn these people away from my signs. And who are these people that He's going to turn away from His signs? الَّذِينَ يَتَكَبَّرُونَ فِي الْأَرْضِ بِغَيْرِ الْحَقِّ. Those who act arrogantly and without any right to act arrogant. And none of us as creation, we're all created We're all completely dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that we need. We are al-fuqara bidawatina. This is our nature, is faqr. This is our nature, is what? Complete and an impoverished state, a dependent state, that we will always be dependent on Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for everything that we need. So therefore, we have no right to act in any arrogant manner. Doesn't matter what your lineage is. You got created from dirt, you're going to return to dirt. You could have the most noble lineage, that you can be from all the royalty or whatever, but you were created from dirt and you're going to return to the dirt. The worms and the maggots are going to eat your body just like they're going to eat everybody else's body. So it doesn't really matter. So I mean, again, there's no reason to act arrogantly on this earth for no reason, no matter what. Anything that you have is either a gift from Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and a gift from Allah is something that you use in His obedience, or it's a test from Allah because He's testing you to see if you're going to be obedient or be disobedient with this thing. So if you're acting in a righteous manner and you're being, obedient to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala increases you, that's a blessing, it's a ni'mah, it's a gift from Allah. But if you're acting disobediently and Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you more wealth, giving you more of the things that you want from the dunya, and then you got to look at that. That could be istidraj, that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala is giving you more and more and more to set you up for what? For total destruction. Because what you're going to do is you're going to take all those blessings that He has, and the more He increases you, you're just going to destroy yourself with it. You will be the destroyer of you. Everything that you're going to do, you're going to destroy yourself with your own hands. And so, Allahumma musta'an, you have to be careful with this. So there's no reason that we act arrogantly in the land. We have nothing to act arrogant about. And arrogantly, and the biggest of all arrogance is rejecting the truth, rejecting the Qur'an and the Sunnah, rejecting it because, why? Because the person who's giving you the advice doesn't have the status that you have. And this is what you see on a daily basis, where people completely, like, if you come with something from the Qur'an and the Sunnah, they'll just reject it outright. Muslims. So Allahumma musta'an. These are the mutakabbirun. These are the people alladhina yatakabbaruna fil ard bighayri al-haq. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said, when yaraw kulla ayatin la yu'minu biha. If they were to see all the signs, everything, like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala sent down every sign that's imaginable, la yu'minu biha, they will never believe in it. وَإِن يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الرُّشْدِ لَا يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. And if they were to see the path of righteousness, the correct path, they will never take it as a path to be followed. They will never follow this path. وَإِن يَرَوْا سَبِيلَ الْغَيِّ يَتَّخِذُوهُ سَبِيلًا. And then if they see the path of what? They see the path of deviance, the path of sin, the path of following the desires, that's the path that they choose to follow. And then Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala said what? ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّهُمْ كَذَّبُوا بِآيَاتِنَا. And that's because they lied and they denied our signs. وَكَانُوا عَنْهَا غَافِلِينَ. And because they were heedless of them. And their heedlessness, their lack of concern with the truth, with their lack of concern of using the faculties that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala has given them, has caused them to turn away from the signs and reject them. And you see this every day. Every day you can go to any Islamic center. When a person who's trying to follow the Sunnah tries to give advice to a lot of these liberal type Muslims, and you see how they reject the deen. They reject it. They just reject it. It's Allah musta'an. And so, ya Rabbi. I mean, what do you want after that? ماذا بعد الحق إلا الضلال. Allah musta'an. Arrogance and heedlessness. Okay, so arrogance and heedlessness are the causes for a person to neglect his responsibility to learn the Arabic language. There's no other excuse. I mean, there is an excuse if the person just lives in a place where there's just nothing there. Nothing. Like, okay, so he became a Muslim in Idaho, in the middle of the country, because he saw something online and learned about Islam online, and he accepted Islam. Okay, that person will excuse. But a person who's in a city where there's a lot of Muslims and where's your excuse? So, and then I said, what punishment in this dunya is greater than Allah not allowing you to understand His speech and the speech of His messenger? And that's how you should look at it. You should look at the fact that you have no desire to learn the language as a punishment. You should not look at it like, I don't know how a person would look at it if they once I knew that you could study the Arabic language, I don't think there was anything in my life that was more important. But yeah, I mean, I understand people because I grew up in that Islamic center environment. I became Muslim when I was 15 years old at an Islamic center. And no, we were never motivated to learn the Arabic language. We were never motivated to memorize the Qur'an. We were never motivated to even learn the deen whatsoever. These are things that we had to get on our own. And it was when I left that environment and went to an environment and met a brother who had, was a student of knowledge in Yemen. That's when everything changed because the environment changed. So yeah, I understand that the people go through they grow up and they're raised up in this type of environment and it's hard, but you got to fight past that now because there's too many. I was growing up in a time where there were no resources available. What you have in front of you is what you had. That's it. There's no internet. There's no, that was it. Whatever you had within, around you in your community, that's all you had. Unless you went to another community, but you're not going to get online and study Arabic online and do anything. So you had to literally leave. I had to leave that community, go to a whole nother city just to find a community that was doing the things that I was looking for. And then I realized, well, subhanAllah, we can learn the Arabic language. We can memorize Quran. These people have been lying to us this whole time. So that's when, the anger started fueling me more than anything, because just like any other human being, we don't like to be deceived and manipulated and lied to. And that's what I felt. I felt like I've been lied to the whole time that I've been Muslim. At that point, when I went to Atlanta, I've been Muslim for 6 years. And I felt like those 6 years have been nothing but just lies and deception. And people never motivated us to do the things that are the most important things for us to do as Muslims. Because they don't want us to do that, because they know if all the Muslims started learning the Arabic language, started learning well, first off, memorizing the Quran and understanding the Quran. But how do you understand the Quran? By learning the Sunnah. What's going to happen to them? They're not going to be able to spread their deviance and deception anymore. So they have to keep the people ignorant. That's their job. That's their job. So Allah Mustaan. And I'm pretty sure that there's quite a few kuffar organizations behind them that are paying them very well to make sure that the Muslims stay stupid. So Allah Mustaan. But that's something that we have to change. We have to change that on our own. So it said, is there anything more foolish than a person that claims to follow the Quran and the Sunnah, but he exerts zero effort to learn the Arabic language to understand them? How can you consider yourself a follower of something that you do not seek to understand? That is a joke. May Allah guide us all. And that's serious. It's one thing to know, okay, you don't understand the Quran and the Sunnah because you don't understand Arabic. But to say that I follow the Quran and the Sunnah and you're not even trying to understand the Arabic language, that's a joke. You're lying to yourself. Allahumma musta'an. And then I said, as far as how the Arabic language can help you with your memorization of the Quran, because that's the point of this chapter, right? It is simple. It is much easier to memorize and retain something you actually understand than something which you don't understand. And that's simple. That's the truth. Go and try to memorize a poem in a language you understand, and then try to memorize a poem in a language you don't understand, and see which one you have the easiest time memorizing, and see also which one you retain the longest without having to revise. See, when you understand something, it's not only that the memorization is easier, but also to retain it in your heart is even easier because you understand it. So you can recall it a lot easier than something that you don't understand. So if you're if you get stumped on an ayah in the Quran that you memorize, but you don't understand it, how are you gonna recall it? How are you going to recall it if you just memorize something that you didn't understand? So no doubt, understanding something is definitely the big key to, having a strong, not just memorizing, but like I said, having a strong memory with it, and also a strong ability to retain it. And then I said, when I began studying Arabic, I found a lot of difficulty memorizing the Quran. No doubt. Especially when you start memorizing Juz Amma, because even most of the Arabs don't even understand Juz Amma, like a lot of the words in Juz Amma. So and there's no doubt you're going to have a hard time, especially if that's where you start. If you start Juz Amma, Juz Tabarak, you're going to have a hard time regardless. Even if you have a decent understanding in the Arabic language, you have to read through the tafsir to truly understand the language a lot better. So I said, when I began studying Arabic, I found a lot of difficulty memorizing the Quran. That was because I was memorizing a lot of foreign words on a page, and I had no idea what was going on. I might understand a word or two, but that was not enough to understand what was being said on the page I was memorizing. As I began to understand more and more of the Arabic language, my memory became stronger and stronger. And not just, like I said, not just the memory, not the ability just to memorize something, but also the ability to retain it for a longer period of time without constant revision. Because when I first started memorizing the Quran, I had to revise everything, like all the time. I felt like if I didn't revise it today, I was going to lose it. Because I was retaining something. I was trying to retain something that I had no understanding of. So I'm just, so it's no doubt that's hard. And to be able to do that, even to memorize, like before I left America, I had memorized Juz Amma, Juz Tabarak, memorized like maybe the first 7 pages of Surah Al-Baqarah, half of Surah Al-Anfal, so the first 5 pages of Surah Al-Anfal, and I memorized Surah Al-Rahman right before I left America. The last surah that I memorized was Surah Al-Rahman, and I only memorized it because a brother was reciting it one day in the masjid in Texas. We came in late. It was Salatul Isha, so we were praying in the second Jama'ah. And the brother that was reciting, he recited Surah Al-Rahman. It was so beautiful. The way he did it was so beautiful. And I said, that's it. I'm starting tomorrow to memorize that. That's like, and I memorized that. So that's like what? If you add all that up, it comes out to about 2 juz, like 2.5, leaning towards 3 ajizat from the Quran. But let's say 2.5, little over 2.5 ajizat. All right, so it's actually close to 3 because it's about 15, 2 juz'ain and maybe 15 pages, right? So if you look at that, but that's 2 juz and 15 pages of something I did not understand. I didn't understand. I think, like I said, I could understand a few words here and there, but I couldn't understand the whole what I was reciting. So I just I had to constantly revise it all the time. And then it was only when I started to actually understand it and read it, then it got to the point where I could go a month maybe without revising this, one of these surahs or one of these ajizat, but still retain it because the meaning is still there. I just need to get back to reciting. And once I recite it, it all comes back because I understand it. So there's no doubt that, the understanding something is of the utmost importance. And it's better to understand something and not memorize something than to memorize something and not understand it. Bila shak. So I said memorization is always going to be difficult. It is something the vast majority of people do not want to do. However, we can lessen the burden on ourselves by actually understanding what we are memorizing. And that's no doubt. Even among students of knowledge who understand the Arabic language, memorization is not at the top of the list of people's priorities, especially today, because it's work. And most of the people, they don't want to do work. They don't want to do it. So it's just, Allah musta'an, that's just the reality. But the memorization is the most important thing. And memorization to a student of knowledge, it's like food and water to a human being. It's like you can't survive as a student of knowledge without memorization. It's just, Allah musta'an. I couldn't imagine. Alhamdulillah, Allah, even with the difficulties I faced with memorization, memorization was very difficult for me. But I thank Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala because it's only a gift from Allah that Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala put the love. Like, I would love to memorize things. Like, I hated it before Islam. If you told me to memorize something, I literally would fail a class. And I did. We had a 7th grade English class. And every single quarter, for the 4 quarters of the English class, every quarter we had to memorize a sonnet from Shakespeare. And if we did not memorize this sonnet, we got an F. And I literally took an F for the first 3 quarters. And then the teacher came up and pleaded with me. She said, please, just memorize it. Just do your best. Just memorize it. It's a short poem. It's like, 12, 14 lines. I can't remember how long the sonnets are, right? They're very short. And she said, just memorize it. And so you can pass. Because if you don't, you're going to be in summer school or you're going to have to repeat 7th grade just because of this one class. So I literally just the night before it was like the final day to memorize it, I sat down and memorized the sonnet and came to class the next day and recited it. So I just sat there, and this is where I started doing this whole repetition thing where I took the sonnet and just read it over and over and over and over and over and over again before I went to sleep. When I woke up and I recited it. I went to go get in the shower, and when I was in the shower, I recited the whole poem from memory. I said, "Good, I'm good to go." And then I went to the class and recited it and passed, but literally took an F because I hate memorization. But once like Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala opened up my chest to Islam, like fully, because I've been a Muslim even at at a young age, but I still hadn't been real Muslim. But once that happened, then it's just like the memorization become the most beloved thing to me. And I wanted to once I could see that, like, wow, we can do this. We can actually do this. We can memorize the Qur'an. We can memorize Hadith. We can memorize Arabic poetry. It's just like, what am I going to memorize next? It became like this type of challenge. So no doubt, it's the most important thing. And without memorization, I don't know what a student of knowledge would be without memorization. Allah musta'an. And finally, I said a person has to understand that there is no carryover from one language to another. You might have you might have had a strong memory in the English language because you memorize songs and poetry. However, in the Arabic language, you will be starting from scratch. Work on understanding what you are memorizing, and inshallah, you will enjoy memorizing much more. Yeah, and that's the truth too. There's no carryover, meaning that, yeah, just because you're strong in one language in the memory, that does not going to equate to a strong memory in the Arabic language. Because it's the same thing. When you get in the Arabic language, it's like you become a baby all over again. But you're an adult, but you're a baby. So you're going back to your infancy, and you're starting from, just like gaga Google type words until you can start to make sentences. And then you start to, it's the same thing with your memory. You start to memorize little surahs. Then you start to, just like a child, so you have to learn just like a child. And that's not easy for a lot of people. It's not easy, especially for people who are like highly successful in the English language. Like they got 4.0 GPA or more, they're high scores on the SATs, and, they're successful like academically, but then they go into the Arabic language and they're nothing. They're not used to that. So that's hard for a lot of people. It's hard for a lot of people to put the ego aside and to accept that now you have to go back to just, you're like a child now, and you have to start from where a child would start from. But that's what you got to do. This is what you got to do, and this is the path to Jannah. So be it. So be it. Humble yourself and keep it moving. Allah musta'an. But no doubt, Arabic language is the most important thing. I cannot stress this enough. So whoever listens to this, Allah musta'an, I cannot stress that enough. Arabic language is a thing that you need to be putting the vast majority of your focus on. The vast majority. And people ask me all the time, they say, I don't have a lot of time because I work. So I can only do one thing or the other. I can only either I memorize the Qur'an or I study the Arabic language. And I tell the people the same thing every time they ask me this question. Read the Qur'an every day in the Arabic language. Read it, but study the Arabic language. But you keep reading while you're studying the Arabic language. And then by the time that you start to understand the Arabic language, you've read the Qur'an enough. Maybe you've read the Qur'an 200, 300 times by the time that you learn the Arabic language fluently. And then the memorization of the Qur'an will be simple. It'll be so easy because you've read it so many times. And never, ever leave off the reading of the Qur'an. You always read the Qur'an. Every single day of your life, you have to read something from the Qur'an. Something. And that's why it goes back to that notebook thing that we talked about in the previous lesson. Is that what? Not the previous, but one of the previous lessons. Is that you keep that notebook so you can see every single day how many pages you've read that day. But there should never be a day, as a student of knowledge, there shouldn't be a day that you go without reading at least a juz. And that's really being like, how can I say this? Very lenient. Very lenient, because really a student of knowledge should be reading at least three edges every single day of his life until the day he dies, unless you're like very sick and you just can't read. Wallahu musta'an. Wa ila huna subhanakallahumma wa bihamdika ashhadu an la ilaha illa anta astaghfiruka wa atubu ilaik.